On the show now is Jack Jenkins, who picked up a UFC contract at Dana White's Contender Series after a round 3 ground and pound victory over Freddy Linares. Jack, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's been a little while, so has it sunk in for you?
Yeah. It started to sink in now. I think it was a fucking whirlwind couple of months from getting the call through to fight week through to felt like an eternity waiting out the back for the other fights to finish before finding out whether I actually got the contract or not. But now, yeah, all sunk in now, and just eyes forward, focusing on what I can do to get ready for the next one.
We're all looking forward to your official UFC debut. Let's just rehash that fight, that big win. I know you said that you had some issues even getting there, some potential visa issues, and you said it was a pressure cooker. Just being there at the Apex, fighting in front of Dana for this contract. How difficult was it before you were making the walk to the octagon? Was it as hard mentally as it is physically?
100%. Yeah, like I was in really good physical shape. But mentally I was in a good spot too. But there was a few things like I couldn't get a visa in Melbourne because the Melbourne consulate was booked out. So I was supposed to fly to Sydney, but then my Sydney appointment wasn't until like a week before the fight. And then I found out that I wasn't going to get it on the day of the appointment. I had to go back 3 days after I'd given him my passport. So I was like flying up to Sydney, staying in a hotel for a couple of nights, flew home, stayed back in Melbourne for a weekend, trained. Like, and you're still training your ass off at this point. You're in sort of the stick end of camp. Then flew back to Sydney to pick up my passport, and then flew out to Dallas from Sydney, and then from Dallas to Vegas. So it was like there was just a lot of shit happening there. And then I flew in. When I got into Vegas, I got in at 10:30 at night, checked into the hotel, went and did a little workout, and then got picked up the next morning at 6 a.m. by the UFC to go and do media. So I was like, there's just fucking a lot going on. And by pressure cooker, I mean like there was just lots of shit you had to do, and lots of lots of external factors you had to deal with that you would never have dealt with before.
And all of that while I imagine you're in the middle of a weight cut. What is that like for you to get down to 145? How hard is that?
Nah, pretty easy for me, to be honest. Like easy within reason, right? Like everything's relative. For the average person, it'd be it would be a grueling week. But I think compared to other fighters, I think there's a big trend towards healthier weight cuts at the moment. And I'm definitely someone who's on that. So I woke up on fight day. I woke up at 68. I mean, not fight day. On weigh-in day, I woke up at 68 kilos. So I only had to cut like a kilo and a half to get down to weight, which is easy to do.
Yeah, not bad at all. And man, your performance, I know you said you wanted to kind of showcase your striking a little bit more, but really a dominant performance over a really tough guy. You said you were kind of impatiently waiting backstage to get the contract, but what did your coaches, your team tell you? Did they feel like you did enough to get this contract?
Yeah, like I was real disappointed out the back. I thought I thought I'd not shown what I could do and not shown my A game skill set. But it's really hard in that such a high pressure environment, especially when you have such an easy path to victory. Like I felt once I'd taken him down once that my timing on my takedowns and the way he was rushing in, it was just such an easy go-to for me. So it was almost like to not take that would have been a stupid thing to do. You take away someone's best weapons. And if you watch Freddy's fights before he fought me, what he does is walk forward and he draws people into these kind of like battles with hands, and then he can eat shots and finds a way to clip you and take you out. So I completely took away his best weapons from him and put him in an area where he couldn't do that to me, and I was getting all the damage done. But after, I didn't watch the fight back until last week, and I sat down with my coach and I watched it back, and I definitely made some mistakes and did some things wrong. And I think, as I said, the moment was, a factor in that. But watching the fight, I did way better than I thought I did. Like I was probably being a bit too harsh on myself. I got lots of work in. My timing on my takedowns was really good. And yeah, I performed a lot better than I had in my head, but that's just because you're always critical of yourself.
So the game plan was for you to fight the smart fight and to get this to the ground to kind of take away his best weapon. That was what you and your coaches talked about leading into the fight.
Yeah. So the one thing that didn't go to plan for our game plan was, so we knew he was going to come in tall and he was going to throw those 3 pieces and 4 pieces. So the plan was in the first round, get underneath one of those, get him down and get his arms tied. So sort of take away a bit of that danger from his boxing. But what we didn't anticipate, which is hard to plan for, is that Freddy, like, he played really safe. You can see in that, like, he's kind of sitting in half guard playing a little bit of a lockdown in half guard, but he wasn't trying to elevate me. He wasn't trying to sweep. He wasn't trying to open his guard and work much. So I didn't really get a chance to do much. And then it was like, all right, if he works back to his feet, he's going to be a little bit gassed, work my tie clinch, work my knees and my elbows and that sort of stuff. But even that, he didn't really try and do. He was kind of happy to sit on his back and try and stall out a little bit, which kind of threw a spanner in the works. But I managed to get enough work off to get the finish. So that was the main thing. But yeah, I thought, we'd planned a lot for him watching his fights, that once I got him to the ground, we thought he would turn to his base and give his back up, but he didn't really do that.
Could you tell as the third round was about to begin that you were really starting to wear him out, that you could smell a finish? Did you feel like it was right around the corner?
No, not really, to be honest. I thought that I heard the ref tell him in between the second and third round, you need to show me something, I'm going to stop it. Because it was a bad cut. There was a lot of blood. So I came out, and once I got into that side control position, sort of when he was turtled up, I thought, right, I just got to let some big shots go here, because it's, the ref's going to stop it. And I did land, like, there were big, hard shots right on his ear. So, it's easy to get rattled there.
And ultimately you get the contract. What was that immediate feeling like? Because I could only imagine what it's like for mixed martial artists to make it to the UFC is like the goal for anyone. I mean, can you just put it into words?
Fuck, man, more than anything, just relief. Like you think it would be excitement and that sort of thing, and that came later. But in the moment, it was just relief, because it was like, fuck, I've done all this work to get here. I've come all this way, and I got a finish. I got a TKO. It's like, fuck, if I don't get the contract here, I'm pretty stiff. Like, fuck, it would have been rough if I hadn't have got one. But yeah, I was just relieved. Like, fuck, so many people have put so much work into me to get me here, and show up and got the job done and get the finish. I was so relieved that I got that contract. And now like I've said this before the fight, so it's not like I'm just changing my tone afterwards. But I said that I didn't want to just get to the UFC. I wanted to do well. So this is where the real work starts for me. So I'm not, I had a couple of my moments where I was really excited, but I'm not so much excited for the fact that I made it here. I'm more excited for the fact that now I don't really have to work anymore. Now I have the opportunity to really pursue this and try and get to a world championship, because I'm part of the big organization, as opposed to, if I hadn't got the contract, I would have been looking down the barrel of another couple of years. I wouldn't have given up, but it would have been another couple of years of still working 4 nights a week, still, paying rent that way and doing my thing there. Whereas now I have the opportunity, after, 10 years of pursuing this, and working in pubs and, sleeping at the floor at the gym and that sort of thing. Now I'm in a position where I can just focus on this and do all the right things outside of my training to put myself in the best position to win fights.
And with all that extra time on your hands to get into training too, I mean, that's just got to make you a more dangerous fighter.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm more excited for that, more so than just getting into the UFC. But it is it's a huge achievement. So few people ever get to walk out and fight in that octagon. The amount of people that walk into a gym and want to fight, then the amount that drop off from there to actually get into a fight, and then the amount of people that fight and have the dreams of getting to the UFC and never make it is huge. So
And you were actually supposed to be defending your Eternal MMA championship. That bout was canceled 10 days before you fought at Contender Series. How different was that to be preparing for one specific opponent and then to get this huge opportunity and having a whole new opponent? Does that play into the last couple of days of preparing before a fight? Like, do you guys put more energy towards a new opponent, or you just kind of stick with what you do best?
We changed it a little bit. So for my fight on Eternal, like it was going to be pure, it was going to be the exact same as my last 5 fights, which was grappling defense, striking offense. So it was just like avoid the grapple and use your striking. Whereas then we flipped that on its head for the fight against Freddy and went, use your grappling, engage in the striking when he's a little bit more tired. So it wasn't a huge change, but it was enough that we needed to change some things in the lead up.
All right. And again, now you're in the UFC featherweight division. Well, when you look at the guys in this division, how do you feel you stack up right now?
Yeah, really well. Like really well. Like I'm well rounded. I feel like there's guys who are better, maybe a little bit cleaner striker than me, who I've got a big advantage on the ground against. And then there's some really good grapplers who I think, well, they better get me down, because if they don't, I'm going to punch the fuck out of them. So it's I think I've got really good matchups and really good ways where I can get myself to the top. And I'm here to prove it, and I'm not here to call anyone out or make any big statements with my words just yet. I'm going to get in there and let my let a few fights do the work for me before I start making any big statements or anything like that.
The top of the division is so heavy. There's so many great fighters, and right now with Volkanovski being the champion, and he's talking about fighting at 155. What do you feel like he should do? If you were in his shoes, would you stay and just keep trying to defend the title, or would you just go to 155 and try to be a double champ?
I fucking go make as much money as I can. Like Volk's earned it. Like, look what he's done. He had to go through Max 3 times and beat him 3 times. He just hasn't got the respect on his name that he deserves. So fucking go make millions of dollars, Volk. Fight in both divisions. Who gives a fuck if you hold up the belt for both divisions? You've earned that right. So yeah, I'm all for Volk doing his thing, and maybe I'll get to fight on the undercard for Volk, one of Volk's main events in Perth in February. That's sort of what it's looking like now. Is I kind of wanted to fight in December, but the UFC kind of hinted at the fact that all those cards were pretty much full already, and they wanted to sort of put me on ice until February. So February, that card. So whether Volk's defending his featherweight belt or he's fighting for the lightweight belt, it's going to be such a big card. It's going to be electric over in Perth. So I'm keen to get involved.
How many fights away do you think you are from fighting, in the top 15, top 10 of the featherweight division?
3. If you get to the UFC and you're coming towards your peak and you don't need a lot of development, you can go quickly, right? Whereas if you come in really young and if you come in really green, you got to go really slowly. Whereas I don't think I need to take that slow path. Again, you have to prove it with your medal in the cage and with what you do on fight night. But I think once you get in, you look at guys like Cody Garbrandt, Volko. I could name a heap of guys that come in and sort of have 3 or 4 fights, and they're right in that upper echelon of the top 5. So it's about who you fight and it's about how you fight. So I'm planning on getting a few good fights. Let's kick it off in February with my debut on UFC Perth. I want to have 4 fights in 2023. I want to go February, May, August, November, something like that. And hopefully in November they bring it back to Melbourne. So my 4th fight, I'll be hopefully pushing for ranking spots or maybe even beyond that by my 4th fight. And see where we go from there.
Can't wait to see what is next for you. Last question for me. You already talked about time frame for your UFC debut. Is there an opponent you have in mind?
Nah, not at all. Like that's so far-fetched for me to say a name right now. It'll just be UFC will say, hey, this is the guy we think, and I'll say, okay, doesn't matter who. I'm easy on opponents. Like I said, if it's a really strong grappler, I'll I'll strike. If it's a really strong striker, I've got tools to grapple as well. So I'll just take the fight where I need to get the win, get the finish, hopefully get a bonus, and then just make my way through from there.
Very good, Jack. Well, listen, again, congratulations on your big win at Contender Series and joining the UFC featherweight division. Fantastic talking to you for the first time, my man. Before we do sign off, I want to give you the floor. Please tell people where they can follow you on social media. If you have anyone to thank, the floor is yours.
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me pretty much on everything. My name's Farjack, Pharjack. So that's Instagram, Twitter, and I think I even have a TikTok now. Yeah, I've got a TikTok. And I just want to thank my sponsors, Tripod Farmers, Diablo Concrete, and Diversaplum for all helping me out, especially for this last fight and giving me the opportunity to train as close to full time as I can.